This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. A review of Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas this week. And as always, staff writer Richard Sims on deck with cruise news. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug.
Kicking things off this week with two cruise lines offering up very different financial reports.
Talk about night and day. First came Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, which released its fourth quarter earnings and talked about the future. In essence, the new CEO and his CFO said the company's fourth quarter earnings were disappointed and that they faced challenges moving forward. I kind of can't help but wonder how much of their prepared comments were altered after, last week we got that very public shaming by the Elliott Investment Management Group, which owns a 10% stake. And they were very vocal in how mismanaged they think the company has been. And in essence, the Norwegian executives on the call seemed to agree with pretty much everything Elliott said, including how badly they bungled the monetization of Great Stirrup Cay. That, however, is something they're sort of fast tracking. And, we'll see the opening of the big water park there this summer, and that should be a nice influx of cash. They talked a lot on the call about how under the previous management, which is still being shifted around, there was sort of a lack of coordination, like itinerary planning was focused on this and the advertising campaigns were focused on that. And it was all sort of siloed. That was a word that came up a lot, was siloed, and how they now want to make it a more cohesive program. The problem is, cruises book so far in advance and the cruise schedules and itineraries and things are all made so far in advance that we're probably not going to see a whole lot of change in their, financial status regarding that stuff in 2026. It'll be either late 2026 or early 2027 before big changes come. And a lot of that will have to do with Great Stirrup Cay and how they are really kind of moving very fast and very forward on getting that up and monetizing it as fast as they possibly can, because it'll really help with the bottom line.
It does feel like NCL could be before the pandemic, they were like, I think a $50 or $60 stock or heading in that direction, lower 20s right now. But it feels like, with the right person spearheading this, they could get back to that price again.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Elliott Management said. They were like, you guys should be doing much better than you are. And the reason you're not is poor management. It's funny because during the call, one of the bankers, I can't remember which bank they were from, but they sort of asked as delicately as possible about the Elliott Management thing and, had the NCL execs read it, which of course they had. And they responded gently. They basically said, yes, we plan on meeting with them just like we meet with all of our major investors. And then they quickly moved on to the next topic.
And the second financial update came from Carnival Corporation.
Yeah, it was pretty much the polar opposite. Carnival Corporation revealed their 2025 annual report. So like their overall look at 2025. Now, remember, this is Carnival Corporation, which is the parent company. So it includes, but is not limited to Carnival Cruise Line. And the report essentially said, we're printing money and we will continue to do so. The company had record revenues of $26.1 billion with a B dollars, record booking trends, and they ended 2025 with record-breaking year-end customer deposits, which were up 7% over the previous year. They also bragged about having reinstated the dividend paid to shareholders, which is great. Anybody who owns shares of Carnival Cruise Line will be getting quarterly dividends, which they kind of stopped a while back. I think it was during the pandemic when everybody stopped paying dividends. So this was they had a lot to brag about. And what I really love is that this is a really long, very complicated document, pages and pages with lots of big words and financial terms. But even here, even in the midst of this type of document, you can't get around the sort of fluff that all companies use when talking about themselves. In this case, the report said that Carnival Corporation's purpose and mission was, and I'm quoting here, to deliver unforgettable happiness to our guests by providing extraordinary cruises while honoring the integrity of every ocean we sail, place we visit, and life we touch. Doesn't that just warm your heart?
Yeah, what I also found was interesting, Richard, and they've been doing this for a while, but I just learned about it. They're doing 3 ships a day on select days at Celebration Key. So there's a pier there, and only 2 can dock at the current time. So they have like one there from 7 to 1 and one from 8 to 4 for berths 1 and 2. But when that 1 o'clock ship leaves, there will be a 2 o'clock arrival, and it'll stay until 8 p.m. at night. So they're able to service one more ship in Celebration Key for that day, making a little more revenue.
That's interesting to me on a couple of levels. One is that I think I would feel ripped off. Like, I want to spend the day there. I don't want to be shoved in here with and have to leave because another ship is coming in. I want to spend the whole day there. Like when you go to MSC's Ocean Key, one of the things that's really amazing about it is you get there in the morning and you stay until midnight. You get like a bonfire on the beach and all that. So I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about that. I get that you want to make as much money as possible, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was talking to my buddy and his wife who just got back from the ship. That was the 3rd arrival. So they came in at 2 o'clock and stayed until 8:30, I think he said. And he said the issue with that is that at 5 o'clock, 5:30, they're starting to shut down shop with all the restaurants and everything. And there's only one bar open, which is by the pool in Celebration Key, 60 acres, a big place there. So I don't want to say they're getting shafted if you're the 3rd ship there, but you're not getting the full experience.
I'll be interested to see if 6 months from now they're continuing this, because that could lead to one of the big reasons they love doing private islands, not just Carnival, but all of them, is they rank really high in customer satisfaction. And that looks great in your reports and your investor reports and stuff. And if you start seeing a shift in that and you start to see some negativity rolling in, I don't know, you might end up second guessing that.
And speaking of Carnival Cruise Line and making money, we have an update to that game you talked about last week. Was it a lotto?
Yeah. So last week, Carnival announced this new lotto type game called Carnival Millions. As we told you, passengers can buy the tickets on the Carnival Hub app, and all the ships in the fleet, basically their money is all pulled together into one giant pot. As we were doing the story, I had a couple of questions. And the first was whether or not the money rolled over from week to week. Like, for example, here where I live, they have, I think it's Powerball and whatever the other one is, something millions. And if nobody wins the Powerball, that money rolls over, and the next week the pot becomes bigger. And if you go 3 or 4 weeks without the pot being won, that pot becomes huge. So I wanted to know if that same sort of thing would happen here, the way Mega Millions and Powerball do. I also wanted to know if you could buy this, like if you're sitting at home and you're just like on your Carnival Hub app, can you buy a ticket, or do you have to be on a cruise? Well, I contacted Carnival and I got answers to both of those. So according to a spokesperson, it's not the case that the money rolls over week to week. There is a set prize. So that means if you're paying attention, Carnival's going to be making a whole lot of money on this, because let's say they sell $1 million worth of a ticket every day and nobody wins that $1 million grand prize for 2 weeks. All of that money, except for the money set aside for the prize, goes back to Carnival. So that's a nice little bucket of money. I can't wait to see, like halfway through 2026, how that impacts the bottom line when they do their onboard spending report for the year. Also, no, you cannot buy a ticket if you are not on a cruise. So, I have Carnival Hub app on my phone, as I'm sure you do. I, occasionally look at it, use it for various purposes, looking up stuff. But no, you can't just go on and purchase a ticket. You have to actually be on a Carnival cruise in order to buy one of these Carnival Millions tickets.
I want to bounce back to NCL for a minute because they announced something that was going to make a lot of people happy, at least for this month.
Yeah, exactly. Especially those who are sailing to the Caribbean. So not long ago, Norwegian Cruise Line announced that their very popular drink package would no longer extend to the private island of Great Stirrup Cay as of March 1st. Needless to say, that was a very unpopular decision. They were going to sell a whole different drink package that you could get for while you were on the island. And it did not go over well. Now, it looks like those drink packages will work through at least the end of March. I guess the real question now is whether that might be extended beyond that. They didn't really give a reason for why they were extending it a month other than, an ease of transition, but I don't know what exactly that means. So the other thing that they announced that led to a little bit of confusion was with regard to the dress codes. This is another situation where they rolled something out and then seem to be backtracking on it now. There was talk about, not being able to wear flip-flops in the dining room, and it was a little bit of a mixed message because at that very moment, they were rolling out a whole new advertising campaign, which basically said, freestyle, wear your flip-flops, wear whatever you want. So now we seem to be existing in some weird middle ground because the most recent updates say that when you go to dinner, you should wear what's quote unquote appropriate, but they don't really offer a definition of what appropriate is or who decides that. So I guess if you want to know if you can wear something to dinner, try it and you'll find out.
Virgin Voyages had a little fun with that announcement too.
So brilliant. Yes. Virgin Voyages basically said, oh, we're really sorry. We have no dress code and we never have and we never will. Wear whatever you want into our restaurants. And it was perfect. It's a great example of sort of how to put out a message that is slightly dissing one of your rivals while at the same time doing it in a fun way so you don't come off looking like a jerk. Brilliant advertising campaign.
And Royal Caribbean is making a change to one of their onboard packages.
Yeah, this has to do mostly with, or is mostly going to impact people who drink soda. They have those freestyle soda machines, which is funny because freestyle is what you think of when you think of Norwegian. But anyway, Royal Caribbean ships have the freestyle soda machines where with the drink package, you get one of those plastic cups and it has what are the letters?
RFID.
RFID. I knew I was getting it wrong. They have chips on the bottom and the machine reads the chips and lets you get your soda. Well, that used to come as part of, your alcohol packages. Now they are not including that cup and they are not including that chip. If you want access to sodas on those drink plans, you now have to pay an additional fee. I think it's $4.99 if I'm not mistaken. Not a lot, but it's just sort of the fact that what used to be included is no longer included. This won't impact the soda program. It really just impacts people who got the drink package and the soda was included as part of it. So, this is one of those things that is definitely not sitting well with the nickel and dime crew. On the one hand, you can say, oh, it's only $5 to get soda for the week. Not a big deal. But on the other, it's, hey, you're taking something away that I used to get for free.
And if any cruise line is looking for a godmother, well, we know someone who might want the job.
So, fun fact. I actually kind of sort of know a person who is the godparent of a ship. Jonathan Bennett, who's the godfather of the Carnival Firenze, is someone who used to be on soaps, and he now does Hallmark movies and hosting on Hallmark. And I've spoken to him a few times over the years for my other job, running soaps.com. Anyway, this week, Nicole Kidman was on Jimmy Fallon's show, and she told him that she's a big fan of cruises. She loves meeting strangers. Some celebrities, when they go out in public, don't necessarily want to interact with the hoi polloi. But she's like, nope, I love meeting strangers. I absolutely love it. In fact, she actually told him she kind of joked and said she'd be promoting cruises as her side hustle. And while I know she was kidding, I will be absolutely shocked if within the next couple weeks, some cruise line doesn't say, hey, Nicole, come over here, because who wouldn't want Nicole Kidman to be the godmother of your ship? I mean, we've seen some very famous godparents out there, and we've seen some not so famous godparents out there, but I don't know. I am 100% sure someone is going to approach Nicole Kidman about this. I kind of think if I had to guess, I would say it's going to be Norwegian, but it could be anybody.
And we'll end today with an update on how world events are impacting cruise passengers.
This one is a little tough to report because it's changing so rapidly. We'll start with the good news, which is that the situation in Mexico, which was so out of control that the ships were not going to the various Mexican ports, that situation has settled down. Ships are returning this week. Saw numerous ships, including Norwegian Bliss, Royal Princess, Carnival Panorama, cruise ships have returned. But elsewhere, obviously, the conflict in the Middle East has created absolute havoc. There are ships that are stranded. There are others that are canceling their lines. Just before recording today, we received a statement from Celestial saying that they're canceling the remaining Arabian Gulf departures, which were slated for their ship, the Celestial Journey, and they're bringing to a slightly premature end their season of sailing. So both Celestial Journey and Celestial Discovery are now going to relocate to Athens and do a season in the Med. MSC is also prematurely ending their season in the area. TUI has been flying guests home with, and this is terrifying to me, they are flying guests home, but in order to get into the airspace, they have to have fighter jets accompanying them. Doug, can you imagine your cruise comes to an end, you're in one of these hot spots, and they say, well, the good news is we're going to fly you home. The bad news is you have to have a fighter jet. Like, that sounds like something out of a movie, you know?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what these people are going through. Yeah.
Well, as you said, it's a developing situation and it's changing day by day, so we'll keep you posted on it. Staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thank you, man.
As always, thanks for having me.
You're listening to Cruise Radio, America's trusted voice of the cruise industry.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer, if you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
Brian just returned from a 6-night sailing out of Texas on Harmony of the Seas, one of Royal Caribbean's mega ships. He joins us on the line to talk about this 6-night Western Caribbean sailing. Brian, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Doug. How you doing?
Good, Brian. Excited to finally link up with you here and talk about Harmony of the Seas, a ship that has been out for about, 10 years now at this point. So we'll take a step back with that said. What made you want to jump down to Texas and take this sailing from New Jersey?
Well, I did Symphony of the Seas last year. It was the first time I did Royal Caribbean ever out of New Jersey. So I joined their casino program, and I didn't gamble much, but I would get offers to them after my sailing, and this past March, I got an offer through them to go on this sailing out of Harmony of the Seas in September, the 6-nighter. So I called them up and said, hey, how much would it cost for my own room on Harmony of the Seas on mid-September out of Galveston? And I called the woman, and she comes back after a few minutes and she goes, well, okay, so everything all together, it'll cost $146.21. I thought, I'm like, could you repeat that for me? Because it's $146.21. I said, I'm booking this right now. Now, granted, it was out of Galveston, so I had to fly to Houston the night before. I didn't really get a chance to spend a lot of time in Houston because Galveston's port's kind of a little out of the way.
Yeah.
So I took an Uber from Houston Bush, which is actually north of the city, to just a pre-cruise hotel just 20 minutes from Galveston in a city called Texas City. It's not far from there, about 20 minutes away. So just wanted to relax a little bit the night before. Didn't really do anything particularly special the night before. Then day came. I took another Uber, about a 20-minute ride to the Galveston Pier, and they dropped me off right at the pier, which they're expanding there, and it was not terribly crowded, and we were the only ship there that day. There was no other ships at the other ports that day, so it wasn't crowded. Royal does it right, because getting through the pier and the terminal was a breeze. From the Uber driver's car onto the ship was 15 minutes.
I was going to say, this is a fairly new pier for Royal Caribbean over there in Texas, and like you've sailed and embarked like on when you did Symphony of the Seas. Could you tell that this was a little more streamlined, or is it about the same?
About the same, because the New Jersey pier is only one ship capability too. So it's everybody. It's not like Miami where you have 7 or 10 ships at one time, and it can be chaotic there. But no, in New Jersey and in Texas, they have one pier, one shot, and it was very streamlined and very easy.
So you make your way on board Harmony of the Seas. Now, you've sailed the Oasis-class before because you've sailed Symphony, but what were your impressions of the ship this go-around as you boarded?
All these Oasis-class ships, the layout's very similar, so they take you right into the promenade, which they're absolutely beautiful. The Oasis-class ships are just gorgeous. And it wowed me just like Symphony did last year. It was just, everything was laid out so nice. I was familiar with the layout having been on Symphony the year before, so getting around was actually very, very easy. So before we got our bags and stuff, I took time to walk around and actually kind of like make kind of the differences. And given, like you said, like you probably know, the ship is almost 10 years old, so there are a little bit of visible signs of aging. But they're doing a dry dock in the spring, so some of those should be spruced up. The ship is beautiful. The rooms are spotless clean. Common areas are spotless clean. Anything you need or anything, everybody is right there. There are a little bit of nuances that are a little bit different, like some of the restaurants are a little different, and some of the things that were on Symphony are not on Harmony or vice versa.
What kind of stateroom did that casino deal get you for $146 for 6 nighs?
An interior, but they offered me an upgrade, which I took on for another 3, and I had a boardwalk-facing balcony. So I figured since I had spent so little initially, I'm like, well, figure $450, $500 for my own balcony room on an Oasis-class ship is still a bargain.
What did you think of that boardwalk balcony, and was noise ever an issue with there being the Aqua Theater, the carousel, that public area of the boardwalk?
No. I mean, you can hear it, but if you keep your balcony door shut, they're sealed pretty well, and it's not going to be completely shut out, but it's not to the level where it's distracting or it inhibited my ability to like fall asleep or anything like that. No.
You mentioned the ship is going into dry dock shortly, but did the stateroom show any wear and tear?
No. I mean, the rooms, at least my room, I can't speak to other ones, but the room looked like it was in good shape. Nothing was broken or anything like that. Anything I needed, nothing needed to be fixed or anything. I had a very prompt room steward. If I needed anything or any attention, he was very prompt about that.
Did you find there were plenty of plugs in storage space?
I found that there were plenty of plugs, and storage was certainly plentiful for just me. And I think a room like that would be good for 2. But I think if you get up to like 3 or 4 in that room, the storage would be a little bit limited.
Let's talk about the dining on board Harmony of the Seas. And we'll go to the Windjammer buffet there first. So what did you think of the quality of food served there? And did it ever feel too crowded throughout your cruise?
The food quality is your typical buffet fare. I've been on Royal, I've been on Norwegian. So buffet food, there's certainly a wide variety of selection for everybody, whether you want pastas, burgers, chicken tenders. They even have Indian food, and they go off the beaten path a little bit. So the variety is there's certainly something for everybody. And like I said, the quality is good. It's what you would find at a buffet, probably a little bit better than your land-based buffet. As far as crowds go, at peak times, the buffets can get very crowded. And there were times where a section might have been partitioned off, and that would make it especially more crowded, especially on a ship of this size. The buffet is large, but even when you have 5,000, 5,500 passengers on the ship, that can fill up in a hurry.
Yeah. Did you do the main dining room at all on this cruise?
Yes, I did. I ate dinner in there twice on the opening night, which is the welcome night. I did get the New York strip in the main dining room and the spaghetti bolognese. The New York strip was okay. You find a better cut in chops for sure. The spaghetti bolognese was excellent. And then I also ate on the Italian night because I like Italian food a lot. So, and I got the lasagna and the chicken parm that night, and they were both excellent. And I also ate there for lunch and got pulled pork sliders, which were very good as well. And service there was very good too.
Brian, when you're getting a casino comp like this, are they giving you like specialty dinners or saying, hey, you can order off the steakhouse menu in the main dining room on us?
Since I didn't gamble much, I was at their lowest tier for the casino. So that to the extent of that, they gave me a few bucks in free play and a bottle, and they did give me a bottle of champagne.
What time dining did you have?
I chose my time, which I would be flexible. I'm personally not a huge fan of a rigid or a defined, because something could come up and something could change. Yeah. But I chose my time dining for that.
So you did 2 nights in the main dining room. Any specialty venues?
Yes, I ate at Chops. One thing about cruises just in general, and I've been on 5 or 6 of them, is they generally get their steakhouses right. And Chops is no exception. I got a bone-in ribeye there that was excellent. They give you a selection of appetizers and sides, all of which were very, very good. One thing I regret, I probably should have gone to 150 Central also, but I only did Chops on this trip because it was only 6 nights too. If I had a 7th night, I probably would have sprung for another one.
How about grab and go food around the ship, whether on the main promenade there or by the pool?
They have a Sorrento's there, and coming from New Jersey, we do love our pizza. So, but Sorrento's definitely does the job. It has long hours. The service is good there. The pizza is perfectly acceptable, and I was satisfied with it. Up on the pool deck, they have what's called quick bites, but they're renovating it to Loco Fresh, which is what I was on Symphony with quesadillas and tacos and things like that. And they also have the Playmakers is extra, which personally I think is kind of a bummer because it's just sports food. That's fine if you want to have a sports bar, but I don't want to pay extra for what are basically onion rings and sports bar fare. I think it should be included.
Yeah.
But they're putting that on the dry dock right now. It's Sabor, which is like the Mexican place, or right now in the boardwalk.
Let's talk about the entertainment on this 6-night sailing. Aside from the casino, any Broadway shows you may have saw, comedians, music around the ship?
Sure. Well, you mentioned before about the Aqua Theater. The boardwalk faces the Aqua Theater, so I was able to watch. They have a show called The Fine Line, which is a water show, which I was able to watch from my balcony. It was excellent. Well, I would recommend it to anybody. I saw the water show on Symphony, so I made sure to see it on Harmony. It was great.
I didn't think about that because you were on a boardwalk balcony. You had a eye shot of the Aqua Theater shows because those fill up pretty quickly downstairs there. How about any entertainment like in the main theater? Any Broadway shows?
Yes, there was a show. There was a historical show. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I think it was like 1887 or something like that. That was really good. And I did catch a couple comedians late at night, and they were hit or miss for comedians, personally.
Was there any good music around the ship?
They did have good music. There was a guy, he played live music in the Schooner Bar, which overlooks the promenade, and he played a lot of varieties of music. He played some Billy Joel and some other popular piano music. And then, of course, they had at night they had a hybrid 70s, 80s, 90s night all in one shot, which was a lot of fun. They had some of the cruise director and some of the other people in the promenade, and we had a whole good time dancing and singing to 70s, 80s, and 90s music. So that was a lot of fun too.
How were the sea days as far as crowds and congestion?
It was kind of a mixed bag because we had 2 sea days, the day after we left Galveston and the day right before we got back there. The crowds were kind of ebbed and flowed because the weather on the sea days wasn't the greatest, unfortunately. So like in the late mornings or the early afternoons when I would head to the pool deck, it would be raining. So the pool decks were not overly crowded. But no, the sea days, there was certainly a lot to do. When the weather cooperated, which it did. I mean, it was, like I said, rain came and went, but there was a long enough period of time where I could enjoy myself. So I just basically hung out poolside, and they have multiple pools up on that pool deck. So there's no, even on a crowd, when the sun was out, and even a ship of this size, I never had a problem finding a chair or finding a seat. And then there are plenty of bars up there to take it if I wanted to drink or something like that. So that was certainly good. Then they have a couple of water slides there, which are a lot of fun, but one of them was actually down on this ship, which is kind of a bummer, but they had the other two running. So.
Was that down, did you know? Because right now they're intermittently closing slides for safety repairs, changing out the acrylic for fiberglass. Was that because of that incident that happened in August?
I heard about that incident that happened on Icon. No, it was a water flow issue.
Okay.
The staff told me.
Gotcha. Let's talk about the casino. The reason why you were on this cruise, I know that these casinos are pretty low on this class of ship, but how was the smoke situation in and around it?
I will say that it is a little smoky, especially as the cruise wore on and patrons have more, especially on a sea day when obviously if it's in port, it's closed. But I did find it a little bit smoky, to be honest. They do have a sequestered non-smoking casino, which is very, very small. Mm-hmm. And that would serve your purpose if the smoke really bothered you. But like the main casino itself was on the smoky side. I will say that. I've sailed on Norwegian, and they sequester the smoking as opposed to sequestering the non-smoking.
Yeah.
So I think that NCL does a little bit of a better job with the smoking situation, because in the main section of the casino you don't smell it there, but definitely on Symphony and Harmony, I definitely noticed a pretty strong smoke smell.
You think you're going to get another offer after this go round?
I still get offers.
Okay.
The vast majority of them are for a lot of Royals, like older ships, like on the Radiance class and the Vision class, those ships are, so very rare do I get them on like Oasis class. So,
well, this was a 6-night cruise out of Texas. You hit a couple of ports there in the Western Caribbean. So let's talk about those ports. You leave Galveston and you steam towards your first port of call, which was what? And what did you do there?
Sure. The first port was Costa Maya in Mexico. So we arrived like around noon time, so to speak. And I booked an excursion through the cruise line to go ATV riding, which was a lot of fun.
Nice.
It wasn't terribly crowded. There was only maybe about 20 to 25 of us. Mm-hmm. There was another ship in port that day also, so it could have been customers from that ship as well. But they put us on a bus, and they gave us some instructions, and we went off-road ATV riding, and had some really nice views of the ocean in the process too. So we definitely would recommend that to anybody. The one thing I will say, you have to be between 18 and 65. Mm-hmm. So they don't allow kids to do it. And of course, even if an older person feels adventurous, they do cut you off at 65. I will caveat that for other people there, a lot of people on our board had like water related excursions, and they were canceled because of high amounts of seaweed. Mm-hmm. Apparently is a big problem there. So I will note that people that book maybe an excursion that is like snorkeling or something like that, there's probably a risk of that so keep that in mind. I know that they're building their Perfect Day Mexico there, which is still probably a couple of years away, but
with the ATV excursion, do you get pretty muddy or dirty?
We had good weather that day, so yeah, you will get dirty. I'm not sure how they would handle it if it was rainy, but I imagine you would get muddy if it was wet track, but the track there was bone dry. So yeah, so I would advise that you wear not the greatest of clothes if you don't want to get anything ruined.
You mentioned there were 2 ships in port that day. Did the port area, which is pretty well developed with a nice swimming pool and bars and things like that, did it feel crowded with 2 ships in port? Because that place can hold, I think, up to 4 or 5 ships at a time.
No, I mean it was us and a Virgin ship, and those are a little smaller, despite being newer. So it was not terribly crowded. No.
Gotcha. Okay, so you leave Costa Maya. What was your next port, and what did you do?
The next port was at Roatan, and I actually didn't have anything planned for this one. Because I planned for 2 out of the 3, so I kind of took it easy. I kind of mingled around the port area, which I had been at before. I was there about 3-4 years ago, and the port area is your typical cruise port area. It's a little touristy. It's probably not Nassau touristy, but it's still that quasi tourist trap kind of thing. And you could take a cab or something to go around, and there's many things like zip lining and the sloths and everything there. But I wanted to take it easy for this one, because I had just done the ATV before, and it was one port that I just wanted to just relax and maybe take more advantage of the ship while I was in port.
Okay. And then after Roatan, what'd you do?
We went to Cozumel.
Mm-hmm. And how was your day there?
It's good, but it's always crowded. I mean, you're not going to be the only ship there on any given time. So we were there with 2 or 3 other ones. So what I did is I booked a day pass to a resort about a 15-minute cab ride south called Mr. Sancho's down in the southern part of Cozumel. I'd been there before. It's a lot of fun. It's an all-inclusive, so it's all you can eat. It's third party, so it's not through the cruise line. I booked it independently. But 15, 20-minute cab ride there, and it's all-inclusive, all you can eat, all you can drink, and it's pretty good deal. The only downside to going there was that as soon as I pulled it out of the cab, the skies opened up and it didn't stop.
Oh.
So pretty much the entire time I was there, I was undercover having food and drinks while it was absolutely pouring for hours and hours on end, unfortunately. And there were still people out there in the pools while there's lightning. I mean, they're crazy, but yeah, I just wanted to stay out of the rain, it was a bummer, but I still wanted to go there, and the service there is very friendly, and there is a lot to do there when the weather does cooperate. Bad luck on the weather that day.
So for Mr. Sancho's, do they still cap the visitors?
I'm not 100% sure. I booked it way in advance.
Okay.
So it's not like I went there and said, "Oh, can I have a day pass?" And then they turned me around. I had booked it months and months in advance, probably if they do to avoid something like that.
Yeah, for sure. When you're going to Mr. Sancho's, though, what you're buying, does it only include the entry, and you're responsible for your transportation to and from?
Yep, the cab. I had to pay for the cab fare.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so you make your way back on the ship, and was this your last port?
That was the last port.
Okay, so you have a sea day, then you're back into Galveston, Texas. How was the debark there?
But it was as easy as the embarkation. You didn't really have to. You would go. There is a customs port there, but I had nothing to declare. So just like getting on, I was off the ship and on the street in 10, 15 minutes. I booked a shuttle through the cruise line that took you to the airport, which was way cheaper than Uber or Lyft, because the Uber and Lyft ride was close to $100. The shuttle was $54. So it's certainly an option for people that are heading right back to the airport. They go to Hobby and Bush, so they go to both of Houston's airports. So that process was very smooth. They checked you off on a list. They loaded your bags on the shuttle, and away you went. It was an hour-and-a-half ride.
All right. Well, do you have any tips to offer anyone who might be considering, since you've been on 2 of them, an Oasis-class ship?
The one thing I would recommend, and I bought this, I should have bought it on Symphony last year, but I made sure to buy it on Harmony this year, is they sell wristbands, and you could use them in place of your key card to get in and out of your room and service on bars. And it's waterproof, so it's like if I wanted to go into a pool or something or anything like that, I didn't have to worry about my card being somewhere. I could just have the wristband on, wouldn't get affected. So it's only $10. So for me, it was definitely worth the convenience. And you could use it on future cruises, but on Oasis class only. So that's certainly, as far as I know, it's Oasis class only. But yeah, so that was very, very convenient to have. So I would recommend that. I definitely recommend definitely go see a show, definitely see the water show. I recommend, especially on an Oasis-class ship, that the water shows are great. Haven't seen 2 of them. They're both great. It's well laid out. There's signs everywhere. It's once you get on board, it could be intimidating at first, but after an hour or so, you'll find your way around very easily. The funny thing is with the Oasis-class ships, they're big and there's thousands of people, but I never felt like I was in a huge crowd. I never felt like I was shoulder to shoulder, like if I was on a New York subway or something like that. Mm-hmm. These ships are beautiful. They're huge. They're beautiful. There's so much to do. No matter what your age is, there's rock walls, there's zip lines, there's 4 pools, the solarium is great, especially since it's adults only, so to keep the kids away from kids for a little bit. Yeah. But I would do the ship again in a heartbeat.
Brian, I know you were a solo traveler in this one, so I want to ask you this about any advice you would have to someone who may be afraid to take a solo cruise. I do them all the time. Everyone is just so easygoing and go with the flow. It's never hard to talk with someone and, to find, I guess, your group. But what is your advice here?
Cruises are probably the easiest way to meet people. Mm-hmm. And at this point in my life, I found it very, very difficult at times to meet people. Some of my really good friends that I still talk to, I met on cruises. Yeah. For being on my own, you're worried, you eat in the main dining room by yourself. No, I met several people just shooting the breeze over whatever. And they're like, you want to go to dinner, and ate dinner with them. I mean, it's so easy just because everybody's on vacation. Mm-hmm. Everybody's looking to have a good time. Everybody's, for lack of a better way of putting it, on the same boat as you, in the same boat and on the same boat. So so I would say don't be afraid to speak to people, whether you're at a bar, you're at a restaurant, you're at the theater watching a show, or even somebody that might have a room near you that just in the course of walking, or if somebody you met before you even embark. It's so easy to meet people.
Looking back here, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for you?
On Royal Caribbean ships, the entertainment is second to none. The water show was so good that I almost was compelled to see it a second time. I did not, though. But just overall being on another Oasis-class ship, having a nicer room, and just having some entertainment was great. The food, the service, and everything was great about the ship. The only downside was it could have been a little bit better weather, but we have no control over that. Yeah. So, like I said, the entertainment is neat to me, and having sailed on other lines, their pool deck is so well laid out.
Were you happy with the upgrade you paid for the boardwalk balcony?
It was an absolute steal. Mm-hmm. $500 on an Oasis-class ship for my own room with a balcony. Yeah. That's a bargain. Yeah. Now, granted, I had other costs like prepaid gratuities, airfare, and things like that. So when you call it all in, call it $1,200, $1,300 when you factor in airfare and hotels and gratuities. And I had the drink package too, which I got over 50% off on, and those can be pretty steep too. So, but again, absolute bargain.
All right, Brian, your final thoughts of Harmony of the Seas.
A wonderful ship. I would recommend this ship in a heartbeat. Like I said, you could probably get a good deal now before they do the dry dock, but hard to beat a Harmony or any of the other Oasis-class ships.
Been talking with Brian about his 6-night sailing on Harmony of the Seas. Brian, thank you for sharing your vacation with us, my friend.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,